Hello everybody, my name is Nathan, and I am the man with a cartoon obsession. Before I say anything else, I highly recommend watching this video all the way to the end to hear all of my thoughts. This video wasn't originally on the schedule, but I felt like I could squeeze one more video in. Besides, I think the show we're going to look at today is a notable one. Before we get into that though, I would greatly appreciate it if you could take just a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more animation related content. I put out a Twitter poll asking if you guys wanted me to review this show. For the record, I was planning on watching it either way, but most of the people who voted were interested in me reviewing it, and if that's what the people want, then that's what the people are going to get. Oh, and I'm going to throw in a spoiler alert just in case. With all that out of the way, let's get into my review of High Guardian Spice. High Guardian Spice was announced as Crunchyroll's first original series back in 2019. It was delayed for about 2 years, and the first season, consisting of 12 episodes, was finally released on October 26, 2021. The show was marketed and received as an anime. Personally, I view this as a heavily anime-influenced cartoon. The way it's formatted makes me think of other cartoons like that, such as Code Lyoko or Totally Spies. Besides, anime are really just cartoons when you think about it. I should talk about this before I get into the actual review as well. This show was met with a lot of controversy even prior to its release. Personally, I didn't pay it any mind at first, but people weren't happy that Crunchyroll was making original content instead of supporting the anime industry more, especially at a time when they weren't doing well financially. I'm not a businessman, so I'm not going to pretend to know about the ins and outs of all that. What I will say is, I don't have a problem with Crunchyroll producing original content. It might not be anime in the traditional sense, but so what? More shows means more options, which could be a good or bad thing depending on your perspective, but again, I personally don't have an issue with it. The other big problem people had with it was the fact that when the first announcement video was released, it was pushing for diversity and feminism more so than what the show was about, and that bugged a lot of people. Again, I didn't pay much mind to the backlash of that. I don't care much about trailers or promotional videos as a whole. I only care about the final product. With all of this controversy going on, people wrote the show off before it even premiered. I didn't think much of it at first, but the closer we got to its air date, the more I thought about watching it. I wanted to give the show a fair chance before I judged it, like I try to do with any other show, except for some reboots. Anyway, I didn't let all of the negativity surrounding the show cloud my thoughts before I even watched it. I wanted to go in with an open mind, and if I ended up disliking or even hating the show, I would want to find that out by actually watching it. So, what did I think of High Guardian Spice? Well, let's get down to the nitty-gritty and find out. The series follows its 4 protagonists, Rosemary, Sage, Parsley, and Time, as they study at High Guardian Academy to become Guardians. Along the way, they have to deal with monsters, enemies, quests, and occasionally tension amongst themselves and other students. Perhaps it's not a fresh idea, but there's still a lot you can do with this concept. The show does use a lot of tropes and cliches you would expect from other shows of this variety, as you can imagine, like getting picked on in school, and yes, there is a magical girl transformation scene thrown in there, but I honestly don't mind those tropes. In fact, I had fun watching the show utilize some of them. I feel like some shows try too hard to be like their predecessors, and people may say High Guardian Spice does this too, but I just don't feel that way. The show has all of your basic character types, the outgoing adventurer, her more reserved and intelligent best friend, the sulky and brooding member of the group, the school bully, etc. I'll go into more detail of course, but I just wanted to give you all a basic idea. Also, in case you couldn't tell already, most of the characters are named after herbs and spices, or just plants in general. Rosemary is the outgoing adventurer. She's brave, headstrong, and she can be a little annoying at times, but she's also kind and friendly. She wants to follow in the footsteps of her mother, Lavender, a guardian who has been gone for 4 years. Rose fights with her mother's sword, Flowering Thorn, and she wants to find her mom one day. On a side note, I like that Rosemary's mother is the warrior and her father is the parent who stays local and runs a bakery. It's not a dynamic that I'm used to seeing too often, so it's a nice change of pace. Although I would have liked to have seen more of Rosemary's relationship with her father and brother. We didn't see them a lot here. Moving right along, Sage is Rosemary's more reserved and intelligent best friend. She's polite and emotional, but she does know when to stand up for herself. Well, sometimes at least. She's a witch who uses old magic because that's what her mom wants. This is another relationship I wanted to see more of. Outside of one appearance at the very beginning and a photo later on, we don't see Sage's mom at all. Then there's Parsley, a dwarf who helps out her parents and siblings by working as a blacksmith before she goes to High Guardian Academy. She's nice and she has her moments, and while I don't dislike her, she's my least favorite of the main cast. Rounding out the group is Time, the sulky and brooding elf who's good at archery. She's your typical standoffish character who warms up to the other main characters over time, but I tend to enjoy that character type. Plus, she gets some great development, and we see some growth in her relationships with her friends, and we get a look into what her life at home is like as well. Plus, she has some great interactions with other characters.
Hold on, you got mugged on your first day?
I'm sorry, is there a better time to get mugged?
I like a lot of the development and interactions between the main four in general. They have their good times and bad. The good times are usually fun, and the bad times can get a little heavy, but I enjoy seeing these moments and feeling the different emotions. The show has plenty of other characters to offer as well. Some of my favorite side characters are the eldest member of the Triad.
Should we start? I think we should give the students a minute to settle in.
Waiting gives me hives.
We know.
The Potions Professor, Professor Redbud.
Good luck, darlings! If you die in there, I'm keeping your stuff!
And Rosemary's pet mimic, Chompy. Alright, so we don't see much of Chompy, but I just like the idea of a pet mimic treasure chest. There are some other notable students, like Slime Boy. He's a musician, and he also acts as a voice of reason in a couple situations. He's pretty cool, I enjoy him. Parnell is a happy-go-lucky student who's also fun to watch. And of course, there's Amaryllis, the school bully. Well, she does bully people, but she also has her more personable moments. I started out hating her, but as I saw more of her soft side, I started to come around on her. Although even her evil side can be awesome sometimes. LGBTQ+ representation is a big part of the show, so naturally there are several LGBTQ+ characters. For starters, there's a lesbian couple in the show. Sage's cousin Anise and her wife Aloe. They act as parental figures to Sage. I like these two, and I wish we saw more of them. There's also a transgender character in the show, Professor Caraway, and it's explained that he uses a magical potion to remain in his male body, which is this world's equivalent to hormone replacement therapy. Personally speaking, I think it's a creative way of explaining it in a fantasy setting. By the way, Professor Caraway is voiced by the show's creator, Ray Rodriguez, who is also a transgender man. This is a little spoilery, but there's also a character who questions their identity and has been confirmed to be trans as well, that being Snapdragon, Amaryllis' friend. Snap's just not comfortable with the way things are and is introduced to the concept of transition magic. Snap is voiced by Julia Kay, who is a transgender woman, and she confirmed that the character is based on her in some ways. I applaud these casting choices. Their performances suit their characters well, and they feel natural to me, especially Julia, who said this was her first voice acting role. Honestly, I wouldn't have guessed if I didn't find out when doing more research on the show. I also like the characters themselves. Professor Caraway is a good mentor to the students and the friendliest professor at the academy. And my feelings on Snapdragon are similar to my feelings on Amaryllis, but I came around on Snap just a little quicker. As for the voice acting in general, it usually ranges from fine to good, but I think the performances feel a little flat, and that's for several characters at different points. It's a recurring problem, and I wish there was a little more consistency. That being said, I think the voice actors are capable, and even with those flat moments that take me out of the performances for a little bit, they manage to come back and pull me in again. I like the voices for the main four. Brianna Leone as Rosemary, Lauren White as Sage, Amber Romero as Parsley, and Michelle Deco as Time all portray their characters well, and their voices are fitting for them too. As for the rest of the cast, there are some notable names in here that I wasn't expecting. Parnell is voiced by Barbara Goodson, who is best known for providing the voice of Empress Rita Repulsa in the English dub of several Power Rangers shows. Neppy Cat, a magical cat, is voiced by Cam Clark, who is best known for his roles as Leonardo and Rocksteady in the 1987 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles cartoon. Finally, Olive, a villainous cat girl who is shown to be apprehensive about her actions, is voiced by Stephanie Sheh, whom I mainly know as the voice of Hinata Hyuga from the Naruto series. I love Hinata, and well, you already know how I feel about cats, so that should tell you that I'm all about this casting choice and the character, and I enjoy the other ones I mentioned as well. The audio quality needs a little work. It's not awful in my opinion, and most of the time it's fine, but there are noticeable moments where the voice acting sounds like something you would hear in a fan dub. I got used to it after a while, but I can see it being a detractor for others. One more quick voice acting note, which also ties into the animation. I don't know if it's just me, but sometimes it looks like the characters' mouth movements don't match their words. I don't know if it's an error, or if it was done on purpose to simulate how dubs can be off sometimes, or if it's even something that occurs. Let me know if you guys notice this too. Moving on to other visual aspects, I like the art style, especially the designs of the creatures, and even more especially the design of the grog, which is obviously a goat-frog hybrid. I can't tell you how much that idea both fascinates me and concerns me. The characters look good too. They're all nice and colorful, and I enjoy the backgrounds and scenery as well. The animation also looks good. I'm partial to the few action scenes we get in the show. I think they look great. It's a nice combination of the family-friendly type of violence you see in cartoons like Teen Titans, and the grittier action you see in more mature shows. Speaking of, there's a mature content warning before each episode. But I don't think it's necessary, at least not in front of every episode. A couple characters swear every once in a while. Time says the word shit out of nowhere in one episode, and it threw me for a loop because I wasn't expecting it since the language had been pretty tame up to that point. I don't have a problem with swearing, but it feels forced in this show more often than not. There are only a handful of swear words used in this show, so it's not something that turns me away from it. I don't think the action is all that gruesome either. There is some blood, but it's not that bad. Then again, I'm not squeamish. For those who are, there are some scenes you may want to turn away from. Then there are some more brutal moments, and I mean emotionally as much as violent. I definitely see why those episodes had the warnings. The music in the show is not very memorable except for the opening and closing themes, which feel corny to me, but in an enjoyable way. They're fun, and they have a nostalgic feeling about them that I like.
Friends for a lifetime, amazing adventures, finding who I am, you by my side.
The biggest thing I wanted to mention is some of the characters' actions feel forced. I already mentioned the swearing and sometimes flat voice acting, but I also feel that way about some romantic hints we get in the show and some of the more tense moments. A prime example is the whole boys wouldn't understand scene between Sage and Snapdragon. I was cool with the resolution to that, and I liked how the two progressed in the following episodes, but I just didn't care for the scene itself. That felt like a we need to do this no matter what moment. This is my biggest issue with the show because it really takes me out of the scene when these events don't feel like they occur naturally. Scenes like these don't happen all the time. In fact, there are a number of genuine moments in this show that I like, but I just had to point that out. Oh, and this show ends on a cliffhanger. It's obviously because they're hoping for a second season, and I'll say it, I am too. I think this first season built a solid foundation, and I want to see where it goes from here. Yes, this is a flawed show, but flawed and bad aren't the same thing. I've been trying to stay away from the reception of this show. I haven't watched or read any actual reviews, but I know a lot of people are bashing this show, and since the show has gotten flack from the moment it was first announced, I'm not surprised. If you're expecting me to say that I hate this show or think that it's awful, you're watching the wrong video. I don't know if it's people being anime elitists or if they just hate everything Crunchyroll does. I'm sure there are people in both camps. Maybe people think the LGBTQ+ representation or feminist approach is being forced, which I can at least see an argument for, even though I don't really have that much of an issue with it myself. For me, it's all about how it's presented, and yeah, a couple parts felt a little forced like I touched on earlier, but I liked the way these aspects were presented more often than not. Maybe there's something else that I'm not aware of. If you have legitimate complaints with the show and don't like it for those reasons, that's fine. I respect that. However, I know how the internet works. I'm sure there are a lot of people who haven't even watched the show and claim to hate it. Honestly, I really don't think High Guardian Spice deserves as much hate as it's getting. I can't think of one moment in the show where I said this is terrible. To be completely honest, if the first look at the show was done differently, and maybe if a different studio was handling the show, I don't think it would have gotten as much hate as it's been getting. I feel like a significant number of people were already expecting to hate the show, and were just looking for reasons to do so. However, I'm positive that there are also people who are genuinely fans of the show. I don't know if I go as far as saying I'm a fan, but I will gladly say that I enjoyed High Guardian Spice. I don't try to review shows as a critic. I try to review them as a fan of animation. I'm always honest with my reviews. If I don't like a show or if I outright hate it, then I'll say so. If I like or love a show, I'll say so. If you like or love High Guardian Spice, I'd love to know why. If you don't like or hate High Guardian Spice, I'd also love to know why, as long as you've actually watched the show and aren't just jumping on the bandwagon. Or as long as you have actual criticisms and don't just say, this show sucks or something like that. Alright, rant over. Overall, I give High Guardian Spice a 7 out of 10. It might have some problems, but I had fun watching this show, and I hope we get more of it real soon.
We're really rooting for you all. A ton of good that'll do us.
Thank you guys so much for watching the video. If you have any other cartoons, anime, or other animated works that you want me to talk about in the future, please let me know. After all, it's not my channel, it's our channel. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and feel free to check out my social media pages, audition for an outro, and join the official Cartoon Session Discord, the links for all of which are in the description below. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you all next time.
Hi, I'm Hinata Yuga from Naruto, and thank you for watching Cartoon Obsession.